Welcome to the fifth episode of the Boiled Up podcast with Jake and Justin. We took a week off last week, but now we're back. We're going to talk about a lot of things today. We're going to start off with golf, talking about the match that happened last Sunday. It was really entertaining. It's probably the best thing that we've seen in a while. We're going to talk about that. Maybe talk about future matches that could happen. We're going to talk a little about the NBA, thinking about the Nets with a healthy KD and Kyrie. There's different reports coming on that if they could come back this season. And with the NBA return, we're going to talk about that as well. And with this title having asterisks. And then we're going to dive into the NFL, talking about the best wide receiver in football, how far we think Tom Brady can take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and our final playoff predictions for the upcoming NFL season. So we're going to start with golf here. Justin, what do you think about the match? I know it was a week ago, but I think it's still in pretty good memory, despite all that's happened in the last week.
Yeah, there's been a lot that's happened, but it's definitely still my memory. For me, I'm a golfer, so I enjoyed it. I
Yeah.
was going to enjoy it either way, but I think even if you weren't a golfer, you probably really enjoyed it.
Oh,
Tom
yeah.
Brady and Peyton Manning together again, that's just a good
Mm-hmm.
combo. And then you get Tiger and Phil. The first match between just Tiger and Phil was good enough. Then you add Tom
Mm-hmm.
Brady and Peyton Manning into it. It was just all around a great time. I really enjoyed getting to see a guy like Tom Brady struggle because, we've seen him dominate for the past, 15 years now in the AFC there. So it was nice to see him have
Very
a little
dominant.
struggle there. And it was nice to see the players out there raising money for a good cause. And, you got to see a little bit of like how the golfers' minds work. Like for me, I like to see how like you have to hear Tiger go through his like progressions, kind of teach Manning a little
Yeah,
bit,
Phil
and Phil
Phil
was doing the
teaching
same with
too.
Brady.
He
Yeah,
did a
Phil was
lot of
teaching Brady. I
teaching with
thought that was
Brady.
really cool. I really like that. So for me, it was probably more interesting to me than other people because I'm a golfer. But I thought even if you weren't a golfer, you probably enjoyed it, and for me, I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, you and I like golf a lot. We
Hmm.
play. I mean, you play a lot more than me now, but I love golf. It's definitely, I think, like if you like golf, watching golf is so interesting. And I'm so happy that it's coming back sooner than most of these other sports because
Yep.
it is the sport that we really can bring back and not really worry about, oh, is this violating anything? Because it's mostly a sport where you're not touching anybody at all unless it's your caddy giving you tips, but you know nothing's really in contact with anybody. You don't see guys bumping into each other on the golf course like they're like in basketball or in football or even in baseball and sometimes. But yeah, this match was great. Took all of our heads off with the current situation we're all kind of in. I actually was thinking about this match because I knew they were talking about doing future matches, and I was like, what if they could get a guy, two guys who golf a lot, who are some of my favorite players right now, and obviously one of them is very much retired. But Michael Jordan and Steph Curry, what do you think
Yep.
about them in this match? I think that'd be great because we all know Michael Jordan plays like 18 to 36 holes a day. Steph's a really good golfer too. He's fantastic. I
Hmm.
mean, Tom Brady and Peyton weren't bad golfers, but
They're
well,
average.
Brady had a rough start, but he had some pretty good shots. Like he knew how to play. But you would
When he
get two
hold he
guys.
hold out from what
Yeah,
180 or whatever it was. That was pretty
yeah, that
sick.
saved his day. He
Yeah,
played pretty well after he hit that shot.
his
The
back nine was good.
first couple holes were brutal. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, no, I think if they could get, I mean, I doubt Michael Jordan would do it. I know Steph Curry would probably do it. I don't think Michael Jordan would do it, but if they could possibly do it, that would be amazing. That would blow through the ratings. I mean, I'm sure MJ's a very good golfer with how much
Oh,
he plays. Even at 57, I mean, he's probably still able to put the hit the ball pretty well, and probably, I mean, he can't probably hit the ball as far as a guy like Steph even probably right now, or obviously Phil and Tiger, but he can play old man golf and just work. He's probably got a really good chipping game, really good
oh yeah,
short game.
yeah,
So I think that'd be really interesting to see, especially if he brings out a couple cigars. That'd be
yeah.
funny.
I'd like
Um,
that. You could get a guy like Tony Romo. He's
yeah,
another one. They get out there
Tony
on the
Romo would be
course.
good.
I'd like to see
Who else
Charles
plays
Barkley out
golf?
there too.
Uh,
That wouldn't
I
be
wa-
pretty. That'd be more for laughs.
I watched that Bogey or Better with Charles,
Hmm.
and that was so funny. I honestly I would just watching Barkley for 18 holes just by himself.
Yeah,
That'd be
that'd be
so
hilarious.
entertaining.
It'd be
Yeah,
funny.
there's definitely a lot you could do with it. I mean, golf is great. I think what they should do when golf comes back is possibly mic up the players like they did for the match.
Hmm.
Um, maybe not for majors because those are more serious, but like the first couple tournaments where it's just like kind of playing and guys are kind of getting their game back, put them on mic and let's hear some of the stuff they're going through. And I mean, for people who love golf like you and I, it's awesome, to hear some stuff like that. So yeah, I think that match was a home run. It was the best thing that happened in sports really since. I mean, the NBA failed at the horse game that they tried. That was stupid. The
That was
2K
pathetic.
the 2K tournament was pathetic, but the match was very, very strong. So that was fun.
Yeah.
But what also we're hearing last week, and now we're going on our next topic, and the National Basketball Association. It looks like we're coming back this year. It looks like we're coming back. And for Walt Disney, we don't know how many teams are going to come back. I'm hearing like 22 or something like that, something around there. Not all the
22 to
teams.
24.
But the thought of this started to come into my mind. I've been seeing kind of different reports. A lot of people are saying KD's not coming back. I think Kyrie's going to come back, but it doesn't look like KD's going to come back. But in any instance, even not just this year, but in the future, what do you think this Nets team is going to look like with healthy KD and Kyrie? Because they're going to be healthy eventually.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough. KD's injury was very severe here. I mean, an Achilles injury, that is rough. I mean, we've seen what it's done to DeMarcus Cousins. We've seen what it's done to some other guys. I mean, different sport, but baseball with Ryan Howard, same thing.
Yeah.
Some of these guys just, that injury is so severe that they don't maintain the same athleticism that they had prior to the injury. So I'm curious to see Kevin Durant's a phenomenal athlete, so I'm sure he'll at least come back to 90% of what he was, but I'm not sure if he'll necessarily be at 100%, especially right away. And it's only been a year. I feel like injuries like this normally takes about 2 years to recover from, is what I normally say, till you're back to 100%. So
Probably.
it's tough. I don't see the Nets having a lot of success with KD and Kyrie just because I don't like Kyrie. I don't think he's a good fit. I mean, the Nets played better without him on the floor this season. And Kyrie and Kevin Durant are so ball dominant players. I'm not sure how well that fit will work. I think it will kind of be like an OKC fit there. Russ and KD were both such ball dominant players. I mean, they did have success, but they only made the finals, once in all that time, just because
they should have made it twice, but they blew that series of the Warriors in, what was it, 2016?
Yeah, so it was something like that. But yeah, so they were a good team, but they never were like a dominating team, and I think that's going to be what they do here, because the reason KD had so much success in Golden State was because Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, they were such great off-ball movers, and Kyrie is not that. Kyrie is a guy that you want the ball in his hands. He is dominant with the ball, and KD is also that way. So I think there'll be a little clash there. I mean, they're great friends, so we'll see how it works. I mean, James Harden and Russell Westbrook have made it work so far, but it hasn't been dominating the league yet. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm not a big fan of it though.
All right. I see your points, but I know that on paper you wouldn't think that two ball dominant players would be able to play very well with each other, but I have to look back at what the Cavs did with Kyrie and LeBron. Those are two ball dominant players and they were able to make it work. I mean, they won a title. I mean, I don't think I think peak KD is still below peak LeBron, which was probably in those late Cavs years where we saw peak of LeBron. But I think even with KD coming off this injury, he's still going to be at least a top 5, top 10 player in the league, even at 80 to 90% of Kevin Durant, because he was arguably maybe the best player in basketball last year.
He was top 3, no doubt, when healthy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but it is a tough injury. We've seen guys fail to come back. This is the same injury that Kobe suffered, correct?
Mm-hmm. At the end of his career there.
Granted, yeah, that was Kobe at 34, 35, a little different than KD at 30. But still, I mean, Kobe wasn't really heavily injured until that, and that just kind of ended his career. I mean, he was still okay the last couple of years, but he was not Kobe Bryant. And Kyrie, as much as I love to praise him, I think ball-wise, ball skill-wise, he's one of the best ball handlers in NBA history. So, but he's never healthy. I mean, we've seen this year, he came into the season fully healthy, and he's played 20 games this year, only 20. I mean, what the hell's going on with that? He's just it's unbelievable. It seems like year after year he's getting injured for some reason or another. I mean, I don't think he's had a single season in his career, and I'm ballparking this, but I don't think he's had a single season where he's missed less than 10 games. I don't think he's – I mean, he's obviously never played a full season, but at least in the last couple of years, I think he's missed at least 10, 20, 30 games a year. It's always a new injury, and those start to pile up. He's getting older. But if they can both stay healthy, this team is probably finals bound, I think. I think they could be finals bound if they're both healthy. I just think it's too much talent on the court. I mean, and if think about it, if they can keep that good supporting crew with Dinwiddie, with LeVert, with Jared Allen, that's a very good core. DeAndre Jordan, even though he's aging, he's still a solid backup center to Jared Allen and a good mentor. I like this. I mean, obviously, as Sixers fans, we don't want to see them really succeed. But if I'm thinking about this honestly, with two of the healthiest top 10, top 15 players in the league, probably KD top 5, Kyrie top 15 right now. But, I mean, that'll be a tough team to stop in the East. And I don't know. I think they're going to be really tough to stop at full health next year. They're scary for me as a Sixers fan. The thought of them healthy together. Obviously, if they can't stay healthy, they're not going to go anywhere. But, just thinking about, the early rumors about them playing the Lakers, I was like, LeBron's got to be scared of that, if the possibility of them both coming back for that 16. I mean, I don't think that 16-game playoff is actually happening. But if that was happening and they were, that would be a very interesting matchup right now. Because I think KD's pretty healthy right now. They're probably just being cautious with him. And Kyrie's probably healthy. But obviously they got to build some chemistry with each other. But
yeah.
I think the Nets are going to be pretty damn good. I don't know if they can win a championship because there's just so much talent out west. But in the East, the only teams talent-wise that really stack up against them would probably be the Bucks right now. And as a Sixers fan, I don't even think we talent-wise stack up with the. I mean, we don't have a guy like KD on our team who's literally possibly the best player in basketball at his best, and a guy like Kyrie who at his best is easily a top 10 player. So we don't have that. But I think the Nets could be scary if they're healthy. I disagree that they won't do much. I think they're going to make some noise. I think in this KD Kyrie era, they get to the finals at least once. At least once.
I don't know. I mean, they'll be a good team. I think they'll be, in my opinion, I think who runs the East the next 3 years, it's going to be the Bucks, the Celtics, and the Sixers. I think those are the three teams that will run the East. I just don't see KD and Kyrie working. I think they'll be through the 4, 5, 6 range every year. I think they may be able to make some Eastern Conference Finals runs, but I don't think they'll get past the Conference Finals. I just don't see it. I don't see their chemistry. I don't think it's going to work out there. I'll be interested to see how this offseason plays out because you didn't mention, but there's been reports that there's been talks for Bradley Beal. Now,
Yeah.
Bradley Beal, the Wizards have said they're not going to trade him, but there were rumors of that. Do they try and get a third star out there? We'll have to see what they do. I mean, with the third, I really don't think a third star would work there. I think they need more sharpshooters around KD and Kyrie. I think you need a really good, like a JJ Redick at shooting guard, and then you need a stretch 4 with a guy like DeAndre Jordan or Jared Allen at center. I think that would be a good starting 5 that they could get there, but right now I don't like it.
Oh, if they get Bradley Beal, they will win it. If that happens, and I don't think it will because I think the Wizards are. I think the Wizards are hell bent on keeping him. I don't know why. I think if I'm the Wizards, I would be like, let's rebuild, let's get this team, because the Wizards have been nothing for years. I don't know why they keep going with Wall. Wall and Beal should be traded, in my opinion, from the Washington Wizards. You got to get draft capital. You got to rebuild that team. I don't think they can win a championship with Bradley Beal and John Wall together. I don't think so. I don't think you can win that as your 2 best players.
I would wait and see how John Wall is when he returns. That's an interesting one though, because when John Wall was healthy, he was a very good player, but he hasn't been healthy in a while.
He's sad.
And if they could
seasons.
sign a dominating big, I mean, I think they'd have a decent roster. I think they could be able to compete. They wouldn't be top 3, but I think they'd be right in there through the 5, 6 range, and they could make some noise. They'd make some runs, but I don't think they're winning champion. You're right. They're kind of stuck in no man's land. I don't think they're going to win any championships with them. But right now, you can't trade them. I think you could trade Bradley Beal, but right now, you can't trade John Wall because John Wall has 0 trade value to anybody. You got to wait for him to come back and hope he plays well. What you should do is you should trade Beal now, and then you give the team to John Wall. That way, his usage rate is a lot higher. His numbers will look better because Bradley Beal won't be stealing. They won't be competing for each other's touches. And if they're not competing for each other's touches, you'll trade Beal at his highest value right now, and then you let John Wall come back, work his way up to averaging 25, 6, and 8, or whatever he's going to average, and then you ship him off then when he gets there, and the next thing you know, you'll have you'll basically be the OKC Thunder. You'll have a ton of draft picks for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I agree with Wall. I think Beal could be traded right now because think about it. If you trade Beal, you got high value now. He's averaging 30 points a game, and you keep Wall. Maybe Wall's stats get a little bit better if he's the one man show on the Wizards and higher trade value. Then maybe, but maybe the team will look for team success, and if the Wizards do good with both players, they'll both have higher trade value. But I think Beal's got to go. I mean, if I was Bradley Beal, I'd be calling for a trade, but I'm not Bradley Beal. But if I was him, I'd be doing that. You don't want to waste your prime years in the cellar, of the NBA. Look at we've seen a lot of these players forcing trades nowadays, like Anthony Davis, because he's in the cellar every year. Now he's top of the West. And speaking about the top of the West, with the NBA returning, with the Los Angeles Lakers in the number one seed, a lot of people have been talking about they're going to tarnish LeBron's legacy because whoever wins the title this year is going to have an asterisk. That's what some people are saying. A lot of people like me think that there shouldn't be an asterisk because this season has been funky, yes, but everybody's going to be dealing with the same circumstances of having a 2-month layoff, probably plus from basketball, and then coming back. But nobody's going to be at a severe disadvantage. It's not like the only thing that could happen that could cause this title to have an asterisk would be, let's say the Bucks are in the playoffs, right? And Giannis gets, the coronavirus or something, and he's unable to play because they can't have him spread the virus. Then the Bucks are at a huge, huge disadvantage, and they probably wouldn't make it out of the East. And maybe then you could be like, well, LeBron didn't play the best team in the East if the Lakers make it out, or vice versa. LeBron gets the virus. Any of these top premier players and these top teams getting the virus, spreading it to somebody, or the fear of spreading it to somebody, and they have to sit out in the postseason, whatever that postseason looks like. But I think if that does not happen, which hopefully we got to hope it doesn't happen, if that doesn't happen, then this title should not have an asterisk because we've never put an asterisk on a title in the shortened lockout season before. Those titles all count. The Spurs in 99, the Heat in 2012, I believe it was, or 2013, both won in lockout seasons, and no one discredits them. But all of a sudden, because of this layoff, and in fact, this season has already been longer than both those lockout seasons. I think we played like 64, 65 games for each team.
But there wasn't a break in the middle of those seasons. Those seasons played, it was shorter, but there wasn't a stoppage in the middle of play, and they had a regular playoffs. They didn't have some made up tournament here to end the season.
Yeah, well, we'll see what this playoff format looks like. I think that 16 game playoff, I think, could be a little bit tweaked. I hope they just stick to the regular format that we had, and we just play like 10 to 15 games, and we start the playoffs as they would be. I think that's way smarter, but I'm not the NBA. I'm not Adam Silver. But no, this title should not have an asterisk on it because think about it. If you're going to give this title an asterisk, then you've got to give the next year's title an asterisk too, because the next NBA season won't start till probably December. It'll probably be a 50-game season next year. So I don't know what the NBA will look like by December. Maybe we'll have fans back. Probably not. Sadly, hopefully we can get fans back maybe by the playoffs of next year. But it's going to be rough. But I just really think it's going to be interesting to watch these games without fans. It's going to look like something we've never really seen before. And that'll impact some of the games for sure. Not having, not playing in, LA, not playing in Milwaukee, tough places to play. Now it's all the same place. But I still think with the talent on the floor on both sides, and think about it, that could happen. Every team's dealing with that. Every team's dealing with that disadvantage, not having their home crowd, not having to play against the away crowd. So I don't think there should be an asterisk at all. I don't think so. I think that's kind of a little ridiculous at this point. Obviously, there could be, as I was saying, some things that cause this to maybe be like, yeah, no. Like if Giannis gets sick or LeBron gets sick and somebody wins, then no. But other than that, I think it should be a clear-cut title.
That's an interesting. I mean, I don't disagree. I think you're right. I think there shouldn't be an asterisk. That's my opinion. Now, will there be? Yes, there will be, because there will be the fans that always argue there is. I mean, think about it. Go back to those lockout seasons. There's always fans that lost there. They'll make up some excuse for it. So there's always going to be one. Now, should there be? Absolutely not. Like you're saying, there shouldn't be. But there'll be the fans that will make up the excuse. Oh, there's no home games. Everything's a neutral site. Like, there's no home court advantage, so the regular season didn't really matter. It's just stuff like that. There's always a way that fans will complain about. The way you're looking at it, it just depends. I know for certain if LeBron wins, Jordan fans will certainly be calling for it to have an asterisk.
Yeah, that's for
That's for
sure.
sure. So I mean, you have that, and if LeBron fans don't win, if he makes it to the finals and loses, Jordan fans will be saying, "Oh, now he's got now he's got another loss." But LeBron's fans will try and say, "Oh, it won't count." Stupid things like that will happen. It always happens. But like, should it? It should not have a one. If that's what the question is, it should not. Will it though? I think it will.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. There's definitely going to be that majority crowd. I mean, we already saw Shaq stand out saying that it won't count. We should scrap the season. But I totally disagree with Shaq. I think we both disagree with that. I think we should play it out, have a title. And, I mean, there's going to always be people that don't count titles. I mean, look at what people are saying. Kevin Durant hasn't won a single ring. But he has 2 rings. So it's all about
There's
perspective.
always going to be people that find a excuse for everything. So I mean, there's always going to be people that will argue it. I mean, me personally, I would actually rather have my team not win this year because it will be
Yeah, I
disappointing.
agree.
Like, I don't want to not have a parade. I don't want, like, I
Yeah,
want to watch my team win, but like part of the excitement is going to the, not necessarily going to the games, but celebrating with your city. You
yeah,
know, you
exactly.
won't be able to go to a playoff game this year. You won't have that parade. Like, you'll just be sitting at home watching the games. It'll be different. It will. I don't know. I'm not sold on necessarily wanting to win this year. I think I'd rather win in a future year if I
Yeah,
was
I
a
think
fan.
as Sixers fans, we definitely would want to be in that parade come June, and
Yeah, I want to
if we
parade
do
down Broad
win,
Street.
and I don't think we will. I don't think we would have anyways. As much as I love our Sixers, I just don't think that this is our year. Everything's kind of been maligned, but maybe it was a good year to have a bad year considering all the circumstances. But all right, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on to the National Football League. So we've talked about a lot about Michael Thomas as a wide receiver, but today we're just gonna keep it simple. We're each gonna give who we think is the best wide receiver in the NFL right now and why. And Justin, you can start.
Man, that's tough. I don't have a lot of love for Michael Thomas, so I'm not going to say him. But I think I'm going to go. This is tough. I really like DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's very talented. But I got to give it to Julio. I think Julio Jones is
Julio.
the best wide receiver. And that now you look at his numbers, he has put up 1,000 yards since 2013. He's actually put up 1,300 last year, almost 1,400, 1,600 the year before, 1,400 the year before that, another 1,400, and 1,800 before that. He's just consistently putting up good numbers. His touchdown numbers have been a little up and down here, but I mean, I don't fault him. His offense he's got a good running back there with Freeman, so that helps him when they get into the red zone. And when you get a guy like Matt Ryan at quarterback, I find he's been a little streaky. He does have a lot of times where he's very inconsistent, which doesn't help Julio. And if when you're comparing him to a guy like Michael Thomas, comparing him to a guy like Drew or Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, I'm taking all their quarterbacks over Julio Jones's quarterback. And Julio Jones puts up the same numbers. I mean, I'm gonna take Deshaun Watson, I'm gonna take Drew Brees, I'm gonna take Aaron Rodgers, and I'm gonna take the 3 of them over Matt Ryan. I don't know about you, but I would say they are 3 better quarterbacks, and Julio is putting up better numbers than them, or at least equal to numbers of them.
Okay, so a few things I want to say about your point. So look, Julio's great. I mean, he's obviously in the conversation, so it's not like an idiotic pick. It's not like picking a Mike Evans or Chris Godwin because of Tampa Bay, taking him in there like a lot of people are saying they are the best 2 wide receivers in football. No, it's a fair pick, but I think you're wrong in a little bit just because I don't think Matt Ryan is a bad quarterback. People think he's like, oh, he's terrible. He's like, oh, I still think Matt Ryan is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now. I still believe he's a top 10 quarterback in the National Football League.
I'm not saying he's not, but like look at the other guy. Look at the other quarterbacks he's playing with. He's
I
had
just
the other guys are playing with. They're playing with Deshaun Watson, who's arguably top six. Drew Brees, arguably top six again. Aaron Rodgers, top six again. Those are top six quarterbacks in the league right now. I'd say Matt Ryan's somewhere between 9 and 10 at best. He's nine.
I know,
Personally,
but
I think he's 9 through 12. So when you're comparing that, Julio is just better because he can do it all when he's out there. You have to have the deep threat because he can outburn you. He can run the route good. He can beat you on the slant. He can do that. He can get a screen pass. Eagles game last year, game-winning touchdown in that game was the screen pass to Julio Jones where he ran it in for the 50-yard touchdown. Julio can do it all. He's not restricted to one thing like Michael Thomas. He can do it all. He's putting up good numbers. And he has a weaker quarterback, and he's still putting up the same numbers, which just goes to show why he's so good.
okay. All right. First of all, I know you hate Michael Thomas and his slant routes, but part of I'm taking Michael Thomas. First, he's my best receiver right now in the NFL. But I would want to talk about your point a little bit more. Yes, Matt Ryan is a little bit below those quarterbacks, but I don't see Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers like at a completely different level. I see them maybe like here compared to Matt Ryan. I think they're just right now at this stage in the career. I mean, Drew Brees is 40, Aaron Rodgers is 36. These guys are getting older. Matt Ryan's a little bit younger than them too. I think Matt Ryan might have as good of a deep ball right now as Aaron Rodgers, maybe even better of a deep ball. And Julio Jones and him have been maybe the best combination. If we had to take a combo for the last 10 years, they've been the most consistent. In the last 6-8 years that Julio's been playing. But I'm taking Michael Thomas. I think he's the best. He has the best hands in football. I think I don't know if he dropped a pass last season. He caught the most passes in NFL history. We know that's a fact. What was it, like 149, 150 last year, and he had over 1,700 yards. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're catching him on slants or not. That's an unbelievable amount of yards and catches. And I think if he had a quarterback with a little bit better of an arm, because Drew Brees is obviously declining, I think you would see a lot more receptions from him in the open field rather than these kind of short slant passes. But he uses his speed to get the extra yards. He had some of the most yards after catch last season in the whole NFL. I mean, I've talked about his ability to catch the ball. He has the most. I could talk about all these records that he's probably going to break. He's caught the most passes in his first 4 seasons in NFL history. Nobody's ever done it as much as him. And it's not even close. He's caught so much more balls than anybody else in their 4-year career. By the time his career ends, he's easily going to have the catch record. I don't know about the yards record or the touchdown record, but he's easily going to have the catch record. And there was another record he was going for. It was like 10 catches in a game. He's already almost number one, he's at like 10, 11 of those already. So he's pretty unbelievably talented. He's a special talent. And I know one of your arguments for guys who stuff the stat sheet, guy like Christian McCaffrey stuffs the stat sheet, right? He was unbelievable last year, but his team didn't win. Michael Thomas's team was winning football games last year. They went 13-3, and he was a big part of that. So he's not just a slant running wide receiver. I actually think his stats will regress a little bit this year because of Emmanuel Sanders coming in. And I think Jared Cook's also still a very viable tight end. He's going to take some receptions away now that he's been healthy last season. And Drew Brees loves him. I mean, he absolutely fell in love with him at the end of the season. But Emmanuel Sanders will take attention away. Emmanuel Sanders will probably take 5 to 6 targets away from him a game. So maybe you won't probably see 150 receptions this year from Michael Thomas. But I still think right now he's the best wide receiver in football. But I'm not like other people. I don't think he's far and away the best. A lot of people say he's far and away the best. I don't think he's far and away the best. I just think he's the best right now based off of the last couple years, and it's close. But I'm taking Michael Thomas. I mean, last year's argument is enough for me to take him. So I'm going with Michael Thomas.
See, a season like last year, he was so good because he didn't have anybody competing with him. Who was the number 2 wide receiver? Ted Ginn Jr. Was that who it was? Or
Traquan Smith
was the number 2.
I mean, arguably the number 2 receiver was Jared Cook.
They didn't have a second guy. Julio Jones is out here competing for everything. I mean, he's got a guy like Calvin Ridley. He had Mohamed Sanu for the first 6 weeks. He had other guys out there that Matt Ryan was able to throw the ball to. Michael Thomas doesn't have that. Drew Brees force feeds him the ball all the time, and there's such a passing offense out there. And he helps that he has one of the best coaches in football when it comes to getting him open. I mean, I think he's more of a system. Like, if we're going off of pure talent, Julio Jones, in my opinion, is 100 times more talented than Michael Thomas. I think Michael Thomas is more of a system player. when you're
Well, I
looking at it
think
like that. I like if
if
you
we're
took
talking
Michael
about
Thomas and Julio Jones and switch their like put Michael Thomas on the Falcons and put Julio on the Saints. Julio Jones would have better numbers than Michael Thomas does, and Michael Thomas would not be able to put up Julio numbers in Atlanta. I'd guarantee that. Because Julio Jones is just straight up more talented. Julio can do it all. And if Julio had a coach like a Sean Payton that could help, I mean, he obviously has had very good coaches in Atlanta, but he's not had a mastermind like Sean Payton, in my opinion.
no. I'll agree with you on that. I think that's a fair point. I think the Falcons are a pretty flawed team. And to be honest, they don't run a lot of slant routes. They run a lot of deep. They go deep. That Matt Ryan loves to throw that ball deep. He's got some of the. I mean, his like yards per attempt is always one of the highest in the NFL every year, and he would have more competition. That's what I was saying. I think with Emmanuel Sanders this year, he'll regress. He won't put up record numbers like he did this last season. But I think still, if you put Michael Thomas in the Falcons for Julio Jones, he'd put up pretty great stats. I don't think he put up what he did last year because I think the system in the Saints fits him really well. I agree with you on that, but I
Yeah, I think it
still
was a
think
combination of system and no competition for targets was why he did so well last year. I think that was more it was more the system and no competition for targets. I think that's what gave him such good stats as to more his raw talent, which is why I think Julio Jones is better.
if we're talking talent-wise, I think if we were just taking strictly talent, it's Hopkins and it's Julio because they have unbelievable athletic abilities that like they're some of the most freakish athletes we've ever seen at the position. Michael Thomas is not, he's very tall, he's very fast, and he's good at catching the ball. So, and last year he showed off all those to like an unbelievable ability. So he just really worked on his game last season. But if we're talking, strict talent, yeah, Michael Thomas is definitely below Julio and Hopkins. But if we're talking about who I want on my team right now, if I had to pick one wide receiver, I'm still taking Michael Thomas for now.
Interesting.
We're going to move on, though. Enough about Michael Thomas. Has been a big, big topic lately, all over the stuff, not just his trolling, also his play. But the main biggest topic in this offseason, and we saw Tom Brady last week on the match, talking throughout the match about how he's going for a Super Bowl this year. He's not focusing on golf. He's focusing on a Super Bowl. So how far do you think Tom Brady can lead these Buccaneers, Justin, with this new offense? A lot of guys coming in. They got a strong offense. He's going into a good situation. How far do you think they can go, though?
The Buccaneers will finish 8 or 9 in the NFC. They will not make the playoffs. They will miss the playoffs. They won't get the last wild card spot. They will just miss it.
That's bold.
They will lose it. I mean, just go around the NFC. In the NFC East, you got Philly and Dallas. I'm taking both of them. In the NFC North, you got definitely Green Bay. I'm taking Green Bay over them all day. And I like Minnesota. I don't think Minnesota is a bad option. I like Jefferson and Thielen. I think they replaced Diggs well. They were very good last year. They have a solid defense star like Minnesota. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears played a lot better if Nick Foles is their quarterback. That's a little
Oh,
biased,
God.
but
I would not
I
take
really,
the Bears
I,
over them.
I mean, that defense is nice, and defense really does when you change. I'm not saying better than them, but I think they will be competing with them for that last wild card spot. And then when you get out to the NFC West, I mean, I think the whole entire West could be better than the Buccaneers. Honestly, I mean, I really like the Rams with Sean McVay. I think Sean McVay is a very good coach out there, and I think he always has something new up his sleeve. So I wouldn't be surprised if they came out hot to start the year. I mean, Seattle's they're going to be one of the top teams. I think the 49ers take a step back this year, though. They lost Sanders. They lost one of their 3 running backs. I'm not sure which one. I can't
Hold
name it.
that for that next topic we got. Talk about the 49ers because I
Yeah,
definitely got some debates for that.
Okay, yeah. I'll hold on. And then you got who else is out there? Who'd I miss? The Cardinals. I like the Cardinals this year. The Cardinals are kind of, for me, the same situation as the Bucks. Not a great defense, but very good offense this year. So I think they'll be in the mix with them. There's just a lot of good teams in the NFC, and I think they end up just short of the playoffs. I think they finish 8th.
I disagree, and look, I'm not a Tom Brady fan. He's haunted me for years with what he's done to the Steelers in the playoffs, and obviously every team around the NFL could say he's haunted them every year. At least for the last there's kind of been two Patriot dynasties. They won like 3 in the early 2000s, and they won 3 more in the later 2010s. He's been the most dominant player at his position on the most dominant team for a while. And I got to give Tom Brady this. He is one of the clutchest playoff players I've ever seen.
Was.
I still think he has in him. You saw what he did 2 years ago, and this is only 2 years ago. It was 1 year ago.
Titans.
Okay, that Titans game, the Patriots were so diminished. I can't believe I'm actually backing up the Patriots here, but they were so diminished in what they had.
Tom Brady played very poor. He was very bad that game.
He did play poor.
It was very bad. It was not a pleasant sight to watch.
I want to take you back to the early part of that season. Remember when they had Antonio Brown and Demaryius Thomas and Josh Gordon, Julian Edelman, and Tom Brady was going off in the first 4 or 5 weeks. He had 12 touchdowns.
He was doing slightly above average, and even if the offense didn't take the field, that defense would have had him 500 or better. Without the offense even stepping on the field, they would have already been 500 or better. So that means nothing. The defense was the one setting them up in great field position. He wasn't the one driving them down the field. The defense was making stops, and they were getting in good field position. That's what was really doing it. Their defense was the one that was carrying that team in the beginning of the year. The best offense is a good defense, and that's what the Patriots had in the beginning of the year. That's how they were succeeding in the beginning of the year. Their defense was helping them put up points, and their defense started to get exposed towards the end of the year. And that's what happened. Their offense started to struggle then.
Look, and I know I hate bagging up the Patriots and especially Tom Brady, but I believe that if you had that team in the first few weeks where you had Antonio Brown, one of the best wide receivers in the league,
of course.
I mean, Josh Gordon, even a meh Josh Gordon, which is what he was last year, is still better than what they have with N'Keal Harry. And you throw him with Edelman, that team does not lose to the Titans. You cannot tell me that they lose to the Titans. The year before, when he actually had weapons, he had Gronk and Edelman, he won the Super Bowl, and he came all the way back against the Kansas City Chiefs, who were still amazing that year. And he outscored Patrick Mahomes. He scored like 35 in that game. He's a clutch player. He's a really clutch player.
Yeah, then how did he do in the Super Bowl?
The Super Bowl was just a wash. We don't want to talk about that Super Bowl. That was one of the Super Bowls ever. But he didn't need to. They were up. It was 13-3.
He was just a game manager, and that's all he is now. That's my point, though. He's just a game manager that can show occasional flashes. Still,
exactly.
The old Tom Brady, but he doesn't have that anymore. That was back 2 years ago. Was the last time really he showed a true flash of that in the AFC Championship game there against the Chiefs. That was the last time he truly showed old 2012 Tom Brady. It's the last time we've seen that. We don't see that anymore. We didn't really see it at all last year, other than that one game against the Dolphins with Antonio Brown, and it was against the Dolphins. So how much are you taking? You can't take that it was a major game there. You're playing basically a college defense.
He's not going to be the MVP Brady from these earlier years. No, but I think he has a good enough team to sneak into the playoffs at 6 or 7, and I think they win a playoff game. I think they win a playoff game next year. Because of Tom Brady, I think he's a really good playoff performer. And I think with this team, he can win at least one game. Obviously, if they're in the wild card, they're going to be on the road, so there's only so much he can do. But he went to Kansas City and beat the Chiefs just 2 years ago in one of the toughest places
with
to
Bill
play.
Belichick as his coach and some very good players around him and a good defense, which he does not have at all.
Bruce Arians is not a bad coach. Bruce Arians is not a bad coach.
Yes, but Bruce Arians, Bill Belichick is way up here. And Bruce Arians is down here with everyone else. Bill Belichick is by far the best coach in football, and he has been. He's one of the goats when it comes to coaching. So
I agree with that. But last season, he wanted Brady out of there. He was not coaching for Brady's benefit last season. Not at all. He cared
about winning.
But yet
he didn't have a good offense. Brady wasn't playing well, so he was focused on the defense to try and set their offense in good position so they could score.
I never would understand why they had – we know Josh Gordon had some troubles last season, but they cut him, and he ended up going up to the Seahawks by the end of the year. They should have held on to him.
Because they knew what was going to happen. He got busted. He was going to get busted again.
I think Belichick – if Belichick is – he's a great coach.
He did care about Brady.
They should have been able to manage him.
He tried to bring in AB. He tried to give him Josh Gordon. He tried to give him weapons, but they backfired. It wasn't his fault.
They cut Demaryius Thomas, too. I don't know why they did that.
Demaryius Thomas was washed.
Yes, but he's
He
still
was
better
awful
than
by
N'Keal
then.
Harry and Mohamed Sanu, even at their stages last season. I would still take DT over both those
Okay, well,
guys.
first off, when you trade for Mohamed Sanu, you're gonna play the guy you traded. You gave up the pick for him, so you got to play him whether he's good or not. You're gonna play him just because you don't want to look like an idiot and not play him.
Yeah, but I just think that was a tactical mistake, and I think N'Keal Harry was just a bad pick. He looks like a bust. He was the
Well,
first round pick for them last year, right?
he's had injuries. Yeah, he's had injuries though. So
We'll see what he does this year. Although the Patriots are going to be unwatchable this year because of Jarrett Stidham at quarterback. Maybe that defense gets him in, but I don't think so. But yeah, I think Tampa. I think I like. I don't know why I like Tampa Bay this year, but I got just this feeling about them that they're going to win at least one playoff game. I think Tom Brady's pretty determined this year. I think he's going to bounce back. I don't think he wins the MVP. A lot of people are picking him for MVP. I mean, I think my pick is generally conservative. There's a lot of people taking the Buccaneers and make it all the way to the Super Bowl.
oh, I
You
know,
know,
and they're idiots.
I'm picking them
They're
to win
idiots.
one playoff game, one or two playoff games, maybe. You know, if everything goes right for them, that offense could be really, really dangerous. And that's undisputable. They could be very dangerous. They have a lot of really good weapons if Brady plays well.
Yeah, they will be at best a 6 seed, maybe a 7 seed, 8 seed, somewhere in that range. They, if they make it in, it will be barely, and they'll be going up against the Saints, the Eagles, Cowboys, a powerhouse team. They will not win a football game, especially if they're traveling to one of those places where it is very tough to play. I mean, they're either gonna have to travel into Green Bay, they're gonna have to travel into probably Philadelphia or New Orleans, because I think those are the division winners. And
Probably. Well, we'll be
I,
talking about that next.
I don't see Tom Brady if he even makes the playoffs. I don't see him going into New Orleans, Philadelphia, Green Bay, Seattle. I don't see him going San Francisco. I don't see him going in there and winning. Maybe San Francisco, but that'd be the only place I'd see him going in and winning. And honestly, I don't think San Francisco is going to be a team that play in the first round.
It's fair. All right. Well, we're gonna move on. We're gonna talk our last topic today. We're gonna talk about our playoff predictions for the NFL. So I'm gonna start with the AFC. Justin, you can talk about my picks and then pick your AFC. I'll talk about that, and then we'll go to the
Mm-hmm.
NFC straight from there. So
Yep.
in the AFC, I think the AFC is actually one of the tougher ones to pick because there's not a lot of good teams. There's a lot of teams that there's a lot of teams that could really take those last couple spots. It's not like the NFC where I think you probably got 6 definite teams that are in, and then that one spot maybe cut. But the AFC is very difficult. So the number 1 seed, I got the Kansas City Chiefs taking back that number 1 seed. I think their running game is going to improve a lot with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think he could win Offensive Rookie of the Year or be a sleeper for that. Could be a great fantasy player too with that offense. I think they still win 13, 14 games. Their schedule is not that hard. Their division outside of they got to play the Broncos. They got to play the Chargers. I don't think the Chargers are that good. I think the Broncos could maybe steal a game from them. But other than that, and they play the Raiders, I think they'll beat the Raiders both times. The only team that I could see them losing to in that division is the Broncos. And they got Patrick Mahomes. They got the best player in the game right now, at least at the most important position, which is quarterback. And that's just going to lead them. That's just going to do numbers for them. And they're going to repeat it to number 1 seed. I don't think that's really disputable. Number 2, I got the Baltimore Ravens. And it's not because of Lamar Jackson. I think I agree with you on this, Justin. I do think Lamar Jackson falls off a little bit this year based off last season. But they have one of the best secondaries in football. That's one of the main reasons that I'm picking them. And they got Campbell in that trade where they gave a 5th-round pick for Calais Campbell. I mean, and their secondary is very strong too. So I think they're going to come back to the 2nd seed. I think they're going to win, not 14. They won 14 last year, and with a number 1 seed, I believe. I think they'll win 12, 13 games this year. The only team in their division that really scares them is the Steelers. They might be able to take a game from them. Probably will take a game from them. 3rd, I got the Bills. I think that division is theirs. It won't be close. I think the Buffalo Bills are going to be a very good team this year, not because of Josh Allen. I think they got a really good defense, and their offense is solid. Their defense will keep that off. Their defense will keep that offense on the field. They'll run the clock out. I love Devin Singletary. I think he's a really good sleeper this year. They didn't play him enough last year. When they put him in the game, Josh Allen played much better because he had a nice back to go to for short checkdowns to turn in. If you have a back that can turn, a 2-yard chunk pass into a 15, 20-yard play, that's very helpful for Josh Allen, who's more of a game manager than a lot of these quarterbacks in the playoffs. But
Did you
those are
just
going to be.
say? Did you just say Devin Singletary was good at receiving?
He's a great receiving back. He made some big plays last year on chunk stuff, like little
No,
dump
no,
offs.
no, 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 no. He did not. He was not a good receiving back. He never had more than 2 catches in a game. He never had more than
But
2 catches in a single
he
football
didn't
game.
play. He didn't play enough. If he was playing every snap, he would have had at
He was
least
their
4 to 5
starting running
catches.
back from week 8 on. He
Not
was
yeah,
playing
but Frank
great.
Gore was still taking a lot of carries away and a lot of snaps away.
No,
He was only playing like what,
okay,
60,
I have to
70% of
disagree
the
with you because
snaps.
I watched a lot of Bills games and he did not. Frank Gore was not even playing a snap towards the second half of the season. He didn't even play at all. Devin Singletary is a very elusive back, but he is not a receiving back
He's
at
all
all.
right. He's a big playmaker. He's a big playmaker. He makes these big runs, and he makes big chunk plays.
He
He's
does
a
once he makes 1 or 2 catches a game, but he's not a guy you target 6, 7 times out of the backfield. You target
no.
him
I'm
two,
just
three
saying. I'm
times.
just saying. As a running back, it's good to have a guy who's dynamic like that. Because I think he can also catch the ball, and I think he'll prove that a little bit. I mean, all backs can come out and catch a pass. It's just like running. You catch the ball and then he can
Yeah, but
run all around the field because he's got elusive speed.
that's
So
why
I
they
think
have T.J.
because
Yeldon.
they're playing Frank Gore like a lot the first 6-8 weeks, and I couldn't understand why when you got one of the best rookie running backs in the draft on your team. But I think they'll play him a lot more this year. I like Stephon Diggs. I think he'll help Josh Allen too. So a really good run game, a pretty good passing game, and a really good defense. I think they're going to challenge the Ravens for that number 2 seed. I think they win 11-plus games. With no more Patriot dynasty in there either. Their division's cake. They got no one that's going to challenge them in that division. No one. I mean, they could win every game in that division, and that's 6 wins right there. So all you got to do is go 5-5, 6-4, win 11, 12 games. So I like the Bills this year a lot. I'm with you on the Bills this year. I know you're a big Josh Allen fan. I'm not, but I think they're still a very good team. Number 4, I got the Titans. I think they come out of that division this year. I think it's pretty obvious they got the best true running back in football. They got one of the best game manager quarterbacks in football. We've seen what Alex Smith was able to do in that Kansas City Chiefs for those couple of years. They were top couple seeds, and he was just game managing, and that's what Ryan Tannehill does. And they got a really good defense. They got a really good secondary. They got Derwin James out there. They got Bosa. They're a good defense. They're going to be. I think they could go a little bit higher. But I'm going to stick them at 4 right now because last year it took them a while to kind of get started. They barely got in at 6 in the last week. So we'll kind of see how it meshes, especially with teams now with a lot of more film on Tannehill in that offense. Maybe they don't make 4, but I think that division's theirs. Who else is in that division with the Titans that could take it? I'm trying to think.
Nobody.
Yeah, I don't think so. But who isn't?
It's the Texans,
Texans, yeah. So
Jags,
the
Colts,
Texans, the Jags, and
Titans. I
Colts.
mean,
So I would think
nobody.
the only team in that division who could challenge them would be the Colts, just because they have a really good defense, a really, really good line. I mean, it's going to take a miracle from Philip Rivers for them to do that, but it's possible. The Texans, no, I think they fall off hard this year. I just think that Bill O'Brien just screwed them so hard through the draft. I didn't think they had a very impressive draft to rebound from that pretty questionable trade. But I think they're looking to the future, the Texans at least. And the Titans and the Colts are kind of going to be fighting for that division. But I think the Titans will win it just because I think they got a better all-around team. Number 5, I got the Steelers. I think Big Ben coming back. I mean, you and I have talked a lot about what we thought about Mason Rudolph last year. I mean, that team went 8-8 with the worst quarterback in the NFL by far. If it wasn't Rudolph, it was Duck Hodges throwing the ball. You could have put me out there and it would have been almost as effective. I mean, for Christ's sake, these guys couldn't hit anything. I mean, there's a funny YouTube compilation video of all the terrible throws that weren't even catchable. I think, and I looked it up. Mason Rudolph had the lowest catchable ball rate out of any quarterback in the last 20, 30 years. He was that bad. He was awful. So, I mean, even Big Ben, even at, 60, 70% of what he used to be, is still 100 million times better than that. One of the best defenses in the league. I mean, you got Minka Fitzpatrick in that secondary. You got T.J. Watt. You got Bud Dupree. Both had 10-plus sacks last year. And Joe Hayden, too, out there. Cornerback, still solid, even though he's a little bit old. And a pretty good offense. I think Chase Claypool could be really good. He's tall. He's a big receiver. He's going to take a little bit, but he could be a solid number 2, number 3 behind Juju and Deontay. I think it's a good team. I think my Steelers are probably going to win 10, 11 games this year, sneak in that 5 seed. I think they're definite to make it to the playoffs. It's just a matter of where. After the Steelers, I got the Indianapolis Colts. I think the Indianapolis Colts are going to get in here. I really like that line. I mean, that line is amazing. And think about it. They got one of the best combination running backs in the league. They got Marlon
Trio,
Mack.
I would say trio.
Trio, yeah.
Yeah.
What was it? Marlon Mack. Well, who's the guy? I forget. It wasn't Dobbins who they got in the draft, right? It was the other guy.
No, they got Wilkins, right? Wilkins?
No, Wilkins was there last year. The guy they got in the draft who was like in the second round.
It wasn't Swift. It wasn't not Swift.
It wasn't Dobbins, I don't think.
No, Dobbins went to the Ravens.
Yeah, Dobbins went to
the Ravens.
Combination.
It was the why can't I think of his name?
I know, I'm forgetting his name too.
Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor. He was great. He's from Wisconsin. Right? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good backfield. And
yeah, Wilkins and Hines in there too.
That's dangerous. I mean, let alone you can just turn Phillip Rivers into a game manager with that type of run game. I mean, all he's got to do is just hit a couple passes.
He had Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler last year, though.
Well, to be honest, Melvin Gordon, what week did he come back? Like 5 or 6?
They still had a good run game last year, and that didn't help out Phil Rivers.
I would take this Colts run game. I mean, Eckler's not a true running back. He's mostly a pass-catching back. He's kind of like a James White, in my opinion. He's a better version of James White, obviously, but I don't think he's a Derrick Henry type runner or even a Jonathan Taylor or Marlon Mack type runner. So I like the Colts. I think these last 2 spots obviously could go a lot of places. I know you're probably gonna have different picks, but I really like the Colts this year, at least to make the playoffs. I just think they got one of the best lines. They got Quentin Nelson, and the offense is not great outside of those running backs that we just talked about. But I still think Phil Rivers has maybe a decent year left in him. I mean, 2 years ago, he was very good. He was almost the MVP 2 years ago. Last year, he just sucked, which was too bad. Unfortunate. The Chargers really had a missed opportunity there. I think they should have been a playoff team last year. And then the 7th team that I think sneaks in is the Denver Broncos. I think the Denver Broncos had a really, really good offseason and a really good end to the last season because last year they figured out what direction they were going with the quarterback. It seems like ever since Manning retired, they haven't really known who their quarterback is going to be. It was like maybe we go back to Brock Osweiler, and then it was like Paxton Lynch, and then it was Joe Flacco, and then all of a sudden they started playing their second or third round. I forget what round Drew Lock was. I think it was second round. Mm-hmm. Started playing Lock towards the end of the year, and he showed a lot of promise, and he was pretty clutch in some of those games. He outplayed Tom Brady in that one game late in the season. That was really showing. So he's a quarter. I mean, now they finally have a definite direction for quarterback. So they were able to just plan this whole draft around setting him up to succeed. And they got Jerry Jeudy and they got KJ Hamler, a guy from Penn State, who's 2 really good wide receivers, 2 of the best on the board right away. And I remember the guy they drafted, Jake Butt, tight end. I think he could be a player this year. I think he's been in the league a year or 2. He hasn't done much, but he's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of raw talent. And I think he could be a boost for them. I like that offense. And they got Philip Lindsay and now Melvin Gordon too. That's a really good team, and a pretty solid defense. Von Miller's still there. I forget who's in. I don't know their secondary too well, but I know that it performed pretty well last year. So I like that. I like that team. I think they sneak in. I think at that 7th spot, you got one of those teams in the Chiefs division sneaking in. I think you got the Broncos or the Raiders sneaking in at 7. For me, I like the Raiders this year. They got a really good defense, but I think they're just going to be on the edge out because I don't believe in Derek Carr. I believe in Drew Lock more than I believe in Derek Carr, which is kind of shocking to say. Despite
So
Derek
do
Carr
I.
being in the league for so many years, he's just not a winning quarterback. He can't win games because of the way he plays. He's too much check down, too much, third down incompletions. He's not an efficient quarterback. He's never won anything. Really won like one playoff game in his whole career. All right, Justin, we're gonna get to your AFC picks, and I think we're gonna stick for the NFC a little bit later just because of time here. But who are
Yeah.
your AFC picks?
Okay, so I have a lot of similar teams here, but so for me, I have number one, I have the Buffalo Bills. Now, you may disagree with this, but I think
Wait,
they
the Bills
won.
at one?
Yeah, the Bills at one
Oh God!
because they have such a poor
Oh,
division. I mean, think about it. They beat the Patriots when they played them last. They split 1-1, I believe, when they played the Patriots last year. So that's right there. They won one game, and the Patriots aren't going to be the same team they were last year. They went. They can beat the Jets definitely. They'll beat the Dolphins twice. I think that's 6 division wins right there. That's
I did
gonna
say that
help
earlier. I
them.
think they can go 6-0 in their division, yes, but I don't think
Yeah,
that they're gonna
and
win
their
14
their
games.
schedule's easy. Their schedules are not that hard. So when you're looking at it, I think I'll explain later, but they will be the number one seed because that defense is very good. They added they improved every part of their team. Their pass rush got better, secondary got better, their wide receiving core got better. They're just a good all around team. I really like them. And then number two, I have the Tennessee Titans. The Titans will be number
Oh
two because
God, Justin, no.
the Titans will be number two because of their
No.
division. You got to look at these schedules. I think the Bills and the Titans are not the most talented teams, but they have the 2 weakest divisions in the AFC, and there's no doubt about that. They will have both those teams will end up going 6-0 in their division, which gives them a head start over teams like the Chiefs, the Ravens. They have all these. They're going to be better record wise. They aren't more talented, but they're going to finish better record wise because of the fact that they have just such an easier schedule. They don't have to play these good teams in their division that are going to beat them up. 3, I do have the Chiefs. The Chiefs are number 3 because they think that they got to play the Broncos twice,
If
who
you
are
put
going to
them
be
at
very
4, I
good.
probably would have turned off this recording.
Well, they're going to fall down
Oh
at 3.
God.
They're not going to repeat back to the number 1 spot. You know that for a fact. They're not. Wait, they were number 2 last year, right? Weren't they 2?
Yeah, they were
Yeah,
number
they were
2.
2.
So number 3 is
Okay.
not blasphemous,
Number
but
two,
I think
no, they were number 2 last year, and they were very good. I don't think they're going to repeat the same. I think they take a little step back just because what they did last year was pretty incredible. And same with the Ravens. But the Chiefs have a tougher division now. The Chargers actually have a real quarterback. They don't have a guy, 40-year-old man, looking when he throws the ball. It looks like his shoulder is going to pop out of place when he
I
throws it.
still
I
don't
mean,
like Tyrod Taylor that much.
I like Justin Herbert a lot. I think he's a good
I
player,
like
and
him a lot. I think he'll
that
be good,
offense
but
is
I think they're
good.
going to start with
They got
Taylor.
Austin Eckler. They got Keenan Allen out there. I think do they have to play the Chargers? They got to play the Broncos. They got to play the Raiders. I think those are all teams that could each sneak a game off the Chiefs, just because they put it this way, that division is much better than the AFC East is. So when you're looking at that, I really like that. Now, 4, I got a little shocker here
I'll say
again. I'm
this.
going with this.
I do believe you that the Bills could get a top 2 seed, but I don't think the Titans have any shot at a top 2 seed.
I
I
do
just don't
just
think
because
they're good enough.
they're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars twice. They're playing the Houston Texans, who I think are going to take a huge step back. I
I
don't
still
have
think
them
the
in my
Texans
play.
will split. I still think the Texans will split with the Titans.
Okay, and you have the Colts, and I
And the
really
Colts, I
do
think,
not
would
like the
split.
Colts. I do
Well,
not like.
I'm a
No,
little
I think
higher. I'm higher on the Colts than you, so maybe.
yes, you are. So I'm going based off of strength of division when I'm making this kind of. So that's part of my reasoning. I haven't fully assessed all the schedules, but when you're looking at this, that automatically they have a better schedule right there than everyone else's, just because their division's so easy. And number 4, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they sneak out in the AFC North. I mean, I'm really big on the Steelers. They went 8-8 with like you said,
I
the worst
agree. I think
quarterback
the
in
Steelers
football.
can make some
And
big noise this year.
I think Big Ben is a solid quarterback. They added Chase Claypool. James Conner is bigger than ever. They still have a
He does look
serviceable
good.
offensive line. Juju Smith has more experience as the number 1 wide receiver, and that defense was elite. They are this year's San Francisco 49ers, in my opinion. I think that defense is going to carry them. They just need Big Ben to be a game manager, which we'll see if he can do. But he's definitely better than what Mason Rudolph
Oh,
and
for
Duck
sure.
Hodges were.
100
So
million times better.
I'm really big on the Steelers this year, and I think they can actually pull out that division. And
I think so too.
honestly,
I had to pick conservatively a little bit right
Yeah,
now. And
and honestly, I think Lamar gets hurt. I don't like his. I'm afraid of his stature in the NFL. I don't like his size. I don't like his weight. I don't like all that. So I'm not big on Lamar. I think he's a very good player. He got exposed a little in the end of the year, and I think if they keep him in the pocket and he's taking some big hits in there, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets hurt. I mean, he is a small dude, and you'll see where I'll talk about more with the Ravens when I rank them here. But five, I'm really high on the Denver Broncos. I really like the
oof,
Broncos. You gotta I think Drew Lock was amazing at the end of last year. They have arguably one of the best offenses in football. You got Cortland Sutton, Jerry Judy, KJ Hamler. That's a very good offense, like weapons right there. You still got Noah Fant, Jake Butt, like you mentioned, and you have
yep.
arguably the best
I do
duo
like the
running back in
Broncos.
football. And Drew Lock was very good last year. And you still got guys like Von Miller on that defense who are going to provide good pass rush. Their secondary is solid. I really like the Broncos to win a wild card spot here. My wild card spots could kind of go anywhere. I'm not really ranking them here because it's too tough to tell. I have them at probably 6 or 5. I also have the Ravens in here. The Ravens are in here, but again, if Lamar goes down, I don't know if they'll necessarily make the playoffs. It's tough to say who makes the playoffs out here. It really is, especially in the wild card. It's a tough race because I don't like outside of my 4 division winners. I'm pretty set on winning the division. Outside the Steelers, I think the other 3 are locks.
Be
But
close.
then outside that, I don't really like. I wouldn't guarantee anything. I would not say anybody necessarily wins. I have the Ravens at 6. Again, I think he gets hurt. I think the Ravens struggle. Like you said, they have one of the best defenses in football, so I think that keeps them afloat. I think that will manage them a wild card spot. I put them at 6, and then 7. I have the New England Patriots. I think Brady was
Ooh,
pathetic last year. Brady was pathetic last year, and I like the offense. I like the offense they have. It's not great, but it's good enough. It's serviceable that defense can lead them again to 500 record, and I think that may be able to get them sneaking with the 7th spot here. I'm not going to guarantee anything, but at 7, I would not. I don't. I like Bill Belichick a lot, and I think he is good enough of a coach and a mastermind. He can find something that will work for Jared Stidham. I think he has a plan, and if he doesn't, I think if they sign Cam Newton, I also like that team. I think Tom Brady was
nah,
not good
there's no
last year.
way they will. I think they're invested in Stidham.
So do I. But even if they do sign Cam Newton, he's going to play just as well as Brady did last year. And Brady was good enough to win the division. I think the defense takes a slight step back, but it's not. It's still a top 5 defense in the league, in my opinion. And I think that's good enough to carry them to around 500, which they could sneak in at 7. Again,
That's
they play the Dolphins twice, and I think the Dolphins
that's
are
a
going to have
fair
a
pick.
rough year. The Jets are going to have another rough year as long as Adam Gase is their head coach. So it's kind of the same reason I have the Bills in there. Or the Patriots may lose both games to the Bills. They still have 4 of their division wins. They're going to go for at least 4-2 in the division, in my opinion.
Okay, well, there's a lot about your list that I could dive into here. I think, oh
It
my
was a little
God,
bold. It was a little bold.
it's bold. I'll give you, yeah, you got some balls for that because those top 2 picks, that's tough. I think you could end up with the right amount of teams in here. I think that you mostly fall. It's not like you pick somebody to randomly make it to the playoffs. I think your teams are good. I think your seeding's a little off. I don't think that the Bills are going to be the number 1 seed in football. I think they could be the 2 seed. I mean, I had them at 3. And you're right. The Chiefs have it's not an easy division, but it's still Patrick Mahomes. But maybe there's Super Bowl hangover, so I can kind of see that. But my only issue is with the Tennessee Titans, and I wish I looked at their schedule. But to be honest, it doesn't matter. It's still the Tennessee Titans. I don't think that they're dominant. I think they're a team, the Tennessee Titans. I think they're a team that could lose every Sunday. I don't see them as this unbeatable team. I think they're
No,
a top. I think they win their division, but I also think that they could lose some stupid games. I don't see them winning 12, 13 games. I see them winning more like 11, 10 games, like they did. I mean, last year I think they won 9 games. I
I
think they
think
get a little bit better this year,
the AFC
but
East
not in the top 2.
they will win a lot of games in their division, and outside that, they don't need to win a whole lot more. I mean, I think they will honestly go 6-0 in that division, and outside that division game, I think they may. What is that? They only have to go 4-6 the rest of the way. That's 10 wins right there. They don't have to go 500 the rest of the way. I don't. I don't. I don't think that to be a
Look,
lot. I think,
yes, they
and I
should
think
be
the
favored
Chiefs.
to
I think the
win.
Chiefs will win 11, 12 games. I think the Steelers win. In my opinion, I think they win
10,
again 10 to
11.
11
I'd
games.
say
So
10
I
to
think
11.
I think the 2 through 4 spots are going to be very close, and I think the 2 through 4 will be a really close at 10 through 12 wins. I think the Bills win 13 games, and then I think the 5, 6, and 7 spot will have 8 to 9 wins in there.
I mean, the Ravens at 6 with an injury to Lamar makes sense, but I think if we're thinking more logically, if he stays healthy, I don't think that happens. I think
That division's going to be tough.
if the Steelers take the
That's gonna
division,
be
I think it'll be 4 Steelers, 5 Ravens. It'll be boom, fighting each other right away. But I don't completely disagree with the Steelers winning the division. I think they can pull it off. I just think it'll be a little bit tougher. But I think it's a bold list. I'll give you that. Couldn't believe it when you said Bills at 1. I thought maybe you had rushed ahead of your list of 3 or 4. But it's bold. I'll definitely hold you accountable to that in the future to see what we're looking at. Although obviously these picks will probably change, but these are early. June,
still got training camp, preseason games. You got some trades, free agents. There's Jadeveon Clowney still out there.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was a great episode. Our 5th episode is finally done. Justin's also on another podcast, Teed Up Podcast. I'm sure he said to do that tonight, so go check him out there too.